Hey guys, it's BW and we're back out in the garage. We've finished up putting the frame rails in the car and we're just about to wrap up the whole underneath, getting all this metal and everything replaced. The last thing we need to do before we start moving up onto the top side is put this crossover piece in. So I thought we would do that together. But let me just show you real quick what we did with the frame rails. You guys can see I used some weld through primer just to protect the metal. We welded everything overhead until we got to here on both sides, because let me tell you, it was tough getting that nozzle up in here. So it was just easier to do the last 2 feet on the top. So that's what we did. And let me get the flashlight to show you guys. It looks like a pretty good job to me. You guys can see I broke out the seam sealer, and we seam sealed so that moisture can't get in between the weld surfaces there. And we've got everything welded up. You guys can see everything's protected up under there with the weld through primer. I like that because I put it on before I weld and then after I weld as well. It's got zinc properties in it, and it'll protect the metal until we're ready to spray this. We're probably going to wrap the line the whole bottom of the car and the trunk. I will tell you, if you guys remember, it was tough for me to get this trunk in by myself, so I used my come along and I put the hook right there on that I guess that's for the jack handle for the bumper jacks that go for this thing. And when I did, it ripped open. So I put it back down, and I was just going to spot weld it back down, and as soon as I struck an arc, I blew a hole about this big. And as it turns out, they had brazed it at the factory, and why they would even cut out a square to put that square back in, it made 0 sense. It was almost like they had a mistake with the stamping or something, and it was their repair. And I had no way of knowing that it was brazed. It was actually brazed in there, and the whole square was. So you guys know, as soon as that MIG hit it, it opened up. So I had to sand all that out. But and we welded it in pretty good, and that's where you see here is all this. This is just that seam sealer, and they said you could instantly paint that stuff. Well, that's not true, because look at all the cracks, and that's all just seam sealer cracks. But anyway, it's welded back in. But I sure would have liked to know that that was brazed in. We could have saved a lot of heartache. A 5-minute job turned into an hour, and it was a pain in the butt, let me tell you. But we got it. All right, now. A lot of people might remember that we already had the crossover piece that came with the car, and it's right here. And the problem that we had with the crossover piece that came with the car is when we went to put it up under the car, the stampings right here don't match up with the stampings on the trunk floor. So I figured, well, maybe it's the different brand or whatever. And I bought a new crossover piece, and I bought the piece that you got to weld to it separate. And I'm thinking that the problem is not this or so much the trunk as it is this piece shouldn't have been assembled at the factory. Maybe they have a template and it would fit the stock Nova, that if you're reusing the stock floor and the location and everything. But for this, it's like, look, if you take this piece, the stampings are identical. The piece is identical. All right, and I could take this crossover piece, and I could also put that up against the back of this, and all 4 holes line up perfectly. Where you would put your where it bolts up to the frame rails. All right, so who knows what's going on there. So the only thing I could do is, if I wanted to use this piece, we could drill out all the spot welds and relocate it. I think. So what I want to do first, just to verify, I guess, that is take this newer stuff and let's bolt it on. And let's see what we got. All right, so let me put you guys on the stand, the camera stand, and let's bolt it on and see what we got. We'll take the new piece, and I got bolts. I'm just going to use regular bolts for now. I laid them out before we start, before we get start, and we'll see what we have here. It's kind of right there. I might have to get a 5 bar so we can line these holes up. Close as they are, they're not perfect. There you go, there's one bolt. Okay. Just put one in each side and then we'll take a look. Now this side's pretty much perfect. That was a little tight to get the piece up in there. It seems like it's all right. Uh-oh. I can see a little problem. Let's take a look here. This one will be on me, I think. Let's take a look. Come over here and show you what I see. All right. It looks like with a little bit of work, these holes line up pretty good. I mean, we just have to prime around a little bit. It's obviously got to be spot welded to the trunk floor, so we're going to have to move some things around. This side lines up pretty nice here. This bolt went straight in. This one looks like with a little bit of work it'll line up. This one does not line up. And let's see here. Let's try to figure out what exactly happened here. Yeah, it's off just a hair. We got 7 out of 8 holes lined up, so something leads me to believe that that's this frame rail again. Oh boy. All right, well, the only way to fix that, I'll have to take these. I got 2 plug welds right there, there and there. I guess that third one as well. We got a spot weld there, and the third one right at the beginning of the split off where it welds onto the side of the other frame rail. I think I'm going to have to break those loose and pull this over, put a bolt in, and then zap them back shut. Because we verified and double and tripled, if we go to our factory locations, the L dimension, which is right here, that is the center of the rear bumper and lower bolt attachment. Those are these bolts here and here. The center mark on those is supposed to be 41 and 15/16. Now I checked that right before I welded all that shut, and there was no measurement from here to here. You just, it's right. You figure it's right. And when all the frame rails were loose, everything bolted up, I think, because that piece flexed. So it has to be just the way it was sitting whenever I welded it shut. I mean, I can't imagine it pulling. And the bottom one's lined up, so that's just telling me that that frame rail piece just needs a little tweak this way, I think. Let's check, double check, triple check that measurement. We've already checked it a bunch of times, and it's right. It's 41 and 15/16. So it's just that frame rail end piece. I'm going to have to drill those 3 plug welds off of there. I'm going to take that crossover piece back off and see if we can get to it from the bottom. Because you know we should be able to see where the welds are from the bottom. I think. If not, I'm going to have to get an oversized cutter, cut those plug welds. I have it here. It's just, man, I hate to have to do that. This thing's a little tight. The holes all line up. The holes all line up, but it is tight. So only this top hole is going to give us the problem. Now I wonder, let's take a look, bring you guys back over. You know what kind of sucks? I seam sealed all around all that. And I don't want to have to take it all back off, but we might have to. I don't know if I could flex this just a little bit, maybe give it a whack with the hammer. And maybe, because it's just it's about half a hole off, and it's only the one. So I don't know. Maybe we could do that. You know, I got a little change of plan here. Instead of drilling all that out and trying to get that brand new seam sealer off, it's really sticking too. I looked at it with that screwdriver. It ain't coming off easy. What if I just took and ground a slit right here and just give it a little pry, and then we can weld it shut after we check to make sure that a bolt's going to go in there, because that's all it is, man. It's just a little flexy right there. I guess I should have quadruple checked it. I don't know, but let me do that. Let me get my grinder set up, and let's cut a slit in that. I cut this little slit in there, and I'll try to move it over. If I have to, I'll just cut the thing off and move the whole thing over, but I think we could tweak it. I measured. The bottom is, I think it was 6.5. Let's take a look. Sorry I'm bouncing you around, but I have to get the tape measure. And you can see why we got 7 out of 8 holes. So that one's about 6 3/8. This one up here, and that was the center mark. This one here is about 6 3/4. You come over here on this side, the bottom is about 6 3/8. The top is 7 1/4. So that's that 1/2 inch. We're off a 1/2 inch now. That's an awful lot. I might have to do those three spot welds yet. We don't know. All right, well, this is going to be what it's going to be. I think I'm going to have to take those 3 spot welds out after all. We'll go take a look. I'll show you what I'm looking at. I mean, it's close. Like, so this side here tells me, you know, the frame rails ain't perfect. It's like, you know, they're aftermarket. But you see you got 1, 2, 3 holes. This one, I could pry it and get a bolt in, but you can see it's a tiny bit off there. But I mean, I feel like we could probably, you know, so you could move this around, and I could probably pry it around enough to get a bolt in. And we could do that when we go to weld it. We'll make sure all 4 bolts are in each side. But, you know, even then, when we go to put the bumper on a year or whatever down the road, we're probably going to have to take a rotary file, because something, you know, like, okay, so if I put my finger right here where this bend is on the crossover piece, you're about 1/8 of an inch away with the edge of that frame rail. Over here on this side, where we ground it and tried to open it up, I can get a bolt in there now, but you can see there's nothing left. and I have almost a half-inch gap between the end of that and there. And you say, well, you could tell me that my frame rails ain't in the right place. Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are. I measured and we checked everything a bunch of times, and it's right. But I mean, it's just telling me that it's at these frame rails, the very end of them. Maybe I should have pried them. That's one measurement that didn't come on that paper there. So we have the inside measurement for the holes, but those outside, these extensions, there's no measurement for those. We have K, we checked that, that's 42 and 5/8, that's inside to inside where the spring perches go, and all those measurements are there. It's just these ends on these frame rails. Okay guys, an interesting measurement for you. So if I go from the end to there, it's 8 3/4, about the center of it. You come over here for the same measurement, it's 8 1/4. That's the half-inch we're missing. So no matter what we did with this slit that we cut, that wasn't going to work. So we are going to let's just take those off. Let's take those holes off of there, and we're going to just have to take this. You guys can see where it's welded onto the side of the frame rail. It just needed to be bent a little more that way. I don't know. All right. Okay. We went inside here, and you see I had to open those right there. I had to open those holes up quite a bit, but we'll close them right up. And these were in the center. Now you can see how far over they are. All I did was I used a big hole cutter to cut it. Then I used the next size down and the next size down, and finished with this one. And then I used the rotary file to get the last little bit of plug weld and flatten them down. And then we just took our big old pry bar, shoved her in there and gave her a pry, and we got our half-inch that way that we were missing. You guys can see from in the middle right there to there. Oops, excuse me. From there to there is now 8 3/4, and that is also 8 3/4. Get that better where you can see that 8 3/4. A little under, maybe a hair. Maybe that, remember that top one was just a little bit off, so I could probably just stick the pry bar in there and just see if I can get a tiny bit right there. But let me do that real quick, and then I'll bolt this back on. There's no point in you guys watching me bolt it back on for a third time. Then I'll bring you back in, we'll look at it. Obviously, if you're replacing a crossover piece and you're using all the old frame rail stuff and all that, you're not going to encounter somewhere. Come down in here and use the pry bar just to kind of push that up. Let me see here. Sorry. You pull that up. I'll just show you that hole. It lines up perfectly now. There you go. Now I'm going to tighten that up with a nut and this side here, and then we'll put those spot welds back. Those holes were kind of big, but we got them all patched up. All right. You see there? They're kind of big, but we got them all patched up. We'll clean them all. We'll just vacuum up all these shavings. We'll hit that with some weld-proof primer, and we can get back on this crossover piece. I almost forgot. I popped that crossover back out. I gotta close that back up where we sliced it and tried to fix it the fast way over. We'll just get that smoothed over and hit it with that primer, and it's like it never happened. No big deal. And then we'll slap this back on, and then we're finally going to get to see what we can do with that centerpiece. We're under the car, and I'm going to show you what's going on. These are the stamps right here. And you can see that that's where the gas tank straps go in there, and that's the cutouts that would not line up on the pre-assembled crossover piece. So I put this up there. Now mind you, our holes out there behind for the frame rails, they're all lined up right now. And there it is. I can get the stamps to line up. And let me put a couple of clamps on here, because there's an alignment hole over here, and it's not lined up. It's just I think there's something, you know, this is aftermarket stuff, a combination of that and a combination of me maybe, I don't know. But I'll tell you, we followed those directions to the letter, and the car is square, so I don't know. So let me put this side on too. Pull you down and we'll look at this and see what we got to do to get it to go together. And ultimately, we just need it to be together so that we can move on, you know. This is the last of the bottom of the car. Well, I think I might have a couple welds over there from the wheel housing tubs to the rocker. I don't think I ever did those. Now that I look over there, but that's no big deal. That's like 5 minutes. That's something we catch up with off screen. All right, so there. Let me bring you guys down and we'll take a look at this and see if I want to see what you're looking at. All right, so right, if we bring this over here, you guys can see. I hope it's hard to see anything. It's hard. I'm looking through the camera, and you see how we're trying to line that up, and I can get that to line up. I can get this side to line up, but then it's going to be very difficult. Come out here to get this. Look how far away all this is, and there's that. That's that 1/2 inch. You guys can see we got everything lined up under there. Our alignment hole right here is a 1/2 inch off, if better, maybe more. See how far off that alignment hole is? And if I move this back, and I can close that gap right up, then these don't line up. And it was the exact same problem we had on that one. So I can leave it like this, and possibly we can shape it. Maybe I might have to put a couple cuts and kind of like shape it up in there. Let me put a couple, I think if I put a couple screws in there for now. Let me put a screw like here, and just see what happens. You know, it's the only thing I could think to do. I mean, I don't want to weld it yet, because I was going to just put this in here and see if I could just put a couple tack welds, bring it out, and then we could just use our spot welder and spot weld the pieces together. That was my goal, but you guys can see that's the exact same problem we were having with the other one, except this one ain't together yet. So we could shape it maybe. All right, we're going to pull this down now. You guys can see I put Tech screws all along here. I would have liked to just welded it, but that's okay. I want to see if I can spot weld these the whole way through, and then we'll just fill those up with weld. And once we get those filled up with weld, we get those two parts welded together. We gotta we're gonna harvest these off of here, because we need these brackets to stiffen it up on both sides. Either harvest these off or make some. I may have enough material under the bench over there. I'm not sure. I have some pieces of old, what was that? When we were going to do the patch panels for the floorboards over there, there might be some leftover pieces there. But, you know, because without those, this wants to hang down. So you can see I had to put a Tech screw here and here. And I don't even care about them. I'll take care of that whenever... you know, we put it back in permanent, because this is going to get plug welds from the top all along here as well. But the first thing we got to do is pull that down and see if we can use the spot welder to put that together right where that stuff's at. We got the two pieces spot welded together. You know, we fitted it on the car, so we know the stamps are darn close. This one still ain't perfect, but they're darn close. You can see now with it out of the car, you know, how far off our alignment hole is. Almost a half a hole, you know, but it is what it is. That's how it fits. And some people would say, well, maybe both of these need to go that way. I assure you, there's no way. I could take you over and show you that the frame rails are flush right along the wheel wells where they're supposed to be. Every measurement all the way out is perfect. So it's just one of those things, man, where the stampings are, you know, are not exact, I guess, but we got it. I'm confident we got it. We need to either harvest those brackets off of this, like I was telling you, but I may just, if I have the material under the bench, we'll just make a couple templates, because we need those, and we'll make those up and put them here and there, and that stiffens everything up. And then all we have to do is bolt it up into the car, and at that point I think we'll plug weld it from the top of the trunk all along here. The only places you can't have plug welds is where we put this, where the stamping is, because there's like a space like that where the band is for the gas tank straps. So, but you know, and we'll use the little dings that the tech screws put in the trunk. We use those to line up to find where we got to drill our holes. It's going to work out perfect, I think. But you guys can see it's dusk. I got some other stuff I got to get taken care of. So I'll pick this video up tomorrow or the next day or whatever. But I feel like this video here is getting pretty long in the tooth. So I think I'm just going to edit the footage I have, put it up, and just start into the next video. Same project, same job, and we'll go that way with it. All right. So if you haven't yet, why don't you think about subscribing to the channel? It doesn't cost you anything, and it sure does help me. Till next time, take care, everybody.